please.
Tēnā rā koe, Mr. Speaker. E Ngāruahine, tēnā rā koutou. Koutou I takahia mai I te eka a Māui. I mahue ai koutou o koutou maunga tapu o maunga tō maunga tūpuna a Taranaki. Me o koutou awa tūpuna kia tātu mai ki konei, ki te takiwā, ki te aroaro o ngā maunga o te atiawa o Ngāti Toa, ngā maunga me ngā awa o konei. Nā reira, tēnā rā koutou nau mai, haere mai ki roto tēnei te whare o te motu. E hari kōna, ko tai ki tēnei wahanga, te pānuitanga tuarua, taro ake tēnei kaupapa ka oti, e manakohi ana ko ngā hua, ka uhia ai ki rungi a koutou, me a koutou mokopuna a koutou uri. Nā reira, tēnā rā koutou. Mr. Speaker, like my colleague Adrian Ngāruahine, I'd just like to quickly go over some of the historical account because it always puts into context what we're discussing here. And as Adrian Ngāruahine said, that before 1860, Ngāruahine were a prosperous and economically successful iwi. It was only a matter of years later, about 5 years later, that the Crown began its program of confiscation of land throughout Taranaki area. Some 1.2 million acres of land was confiscated, and Ngāruahine, in the end, was left basically landless. And we really need to take stock of what that actually means. The soldiers, the forces of the Crown just turning up and shifting people off their land, taking their land. And if we can imagine if that happened these days, that the New Zealand Army turned up in a township and basically said to everybody, sorry, this place is no longer yours. We're coming along, we're bulldozing your houses, we're bulldozing your gardens, your supermarkets, your schools and everything. Off you go. And by the way, we expect you to become successful and to develop yourselves despite the fact that we've taken all your resources. If that was to happen these days, all hell would break loose, but in those days it was fairly accepted. And Ngāruahine have been fighting that since the 1860s, and it's what's brought us here today. We need to recognise that some of that land was returned. 26,000 acres were eventually returned to Ngāruahine as reserves, but the Crown retained over 145,000 acres in Ngāruahine land. But that land that was returned, it wasn't returned as a big parcel to the whole iwi, it was in fact individualised. And this is just another way that the Crown has managed to alienate iwi, hapu, whānau from their land by returning it under individual title, where it's easily picked off and sold off. And in effect, it's just another way of confiscating land. It was easy then just for settlers to acquire that land, probably because many of the whānau had debts to pay after having had their land taken off them and not being able to afford to support themselves economically. The best way they could get some money to support themselves was to sell their land. But of course, they sold the land and still, they were no better off. So it's important that we set the context for what we're talking about here, and I've said it before, and it's always, it's quite coincidental that whenever we're talking about the treaty settlements, that groups of school kids come in, and it's important that they know that this is what, come into the gallery, I mean, it's important that they hear this sort of story so that they know the true history and the true, what's really happened to our people. And again, I'll reiterate the claim that this sort of stuff needs to be, this sort of history needs to be taught in our schools. Mr. Speaker, people have touched on the araukuku situation, a hapu, and by the way, I've just got this map here because it provides, it gives people a bit more context. If we look at a map of Taranaki, Ngāruahine are the iwi with the land directly to the south of Mount Taranaki. To their east is Ngāti Ruanui. So there are two iwi side by side, sharing adjacent, in fact overlapping boundaries, and araukuku, a hapu, that are right on that boundary. The people of Araukuku are descended from both Ngāruahine and Ngāti Ruanui. And that's where some of the confusion, or, well, sorry, I shouldn't say confusion because they know who they are, but that's where some of the confusion for those of us who aren't from the area and the overlapping interests occur. So Arau Kuku, there were some people that opposed the settlement and they wanted their own individual settlement, which in itself is problematic. It's believed that Arau Kuku's interests were settled basically entirely under the Ngāti Ruanui settlement. The opponents of the Arau Kuku opponents of the Ngāruahine claimant definition apparently did not respond to a Crown offer to facilitate hui between themselves and Ngāruahine to address their participation in the Ngāruahine settlement. These Arau Kuku individuals were apparently unable to demonstrate a significant level of support among Arau Kuku, or that they had a mandate to represent the hapu. Look, I have some empathy because I know how intricate our whakapapa are, and someone coming from Ngāpuhi is in no position to judge the relationships and the whakapapa and the whole situation. So I do have some empathy for Arau Kuku. However, in the end, the Crown, well, we have decided that the Arau Kuku interests have been addressed, Mr. Speaker. Just moving on to some of the recommended changes of the bill, and as our chairperson of our Māori Affairs Select Committee has said, that it is largely administrative. There is a new Part 4 to the bill, and that provides a mechanism for reorganising the various governance bodies established by Ngāruahine. The liabilities transfer from Ngā Hapu o Ngāruahine, which is the group and has brought things this far, and they're going to be transferred to Te Korowai o Ngāruahine Trust. The bill also sets out a new clause 120H which dissolves that current representative group of Ngā Hapu o Ngāruahine. New clause 129.1 vests the assets and liabilities of Ngā Hapu as the assets and liabilities of the trustees of Te Korowai o Ngāruahine Trust. There was some issue over clause 127.1b2 of the bill, where Te Korowai o Ngāruahine Trust were concerned about the unknown level of future or contingent liabilities. We understood that any change to clause 127.1b2 would be a significant departure from the Crown's current policy on assets and liabilities. The officials recommended that it remain. New clause 130 provides arrangements with the subsidiary Ngāruahine Fisheries Limited would no longer be a tax charity for the purpose of tax legislation. And that's the tenor of most of the changes, Mr. Speaker. It's more administrative. But as we're dealing with these mainly administrative issues, we always need to keep in context why and how we've got to this stage. And that really does come from the historical account. And, we've heard how whānau have said when we started this journey, I just had one mokopuna, and now we have many. And so we really do need to acknowledge that this is for those many mokopuna. We need to also remember and acknowledge those people who started this journey, but they are sadly no longer with us. Their work is creating a new future direction for their mokopuna. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to the committee stages and recommend this bill to the House. Kia ora.